You're listening to BleedTV, the only podcast with the best shows and movies. I'm Zach.
I'm Cash.
And tonight we have Preacher. This is the season finale.
The end of the road.
Yeah, the end of the road.
We kind of joked about it last week, and thinking if it didn't pick up, this could be the end of the road for the show.
I'm telling you, man.
And to my knowledge, it hasn't been picked up for season 3 yet, has it?
It has not. It has not. There is some doubt, like we said last week, that they're down almost 40% in viewership and so on, but it is still their 4th highest ranked show.
There we go.
That is active, so it is, I guess, making money.
Yep.
It is like I said, what draws us in, there's cool concept, cool characters. And of course, like a comic book comparison. I mean, that helps. But
shout out to Wayne Yip, director, for this week's episode.
Let's just go ahead and say, what did you think of the episode in its entirety before we recap it?
In its entirety? Like, am I comparing it to like the rest of the season or just kind of standalone?
Well, how did the episode how did you feel walking into it?
Not good walking into it. I felt like it delivered. Like, once I sat down and started watching it, I was like, okay. Like, it got a little bit of its groove back. There was some character stuff that I really liked. There was a lot of weirdness that happened in this episode that bounced differently off of their characters. Like, it was like, we got a weird dark side of Cassidy that I didn't even know he had brewing up in him, that I guess Dennis was bringing out. And like, I'm just still upset that Tulip was completely misused this entire season.
The episode itself, I think, has been a continuation of the last like 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Of, we've been running the same plot line and being consistent with it, and it just didn't carry the weight that the first season did. The episode itself, I think, diverged greatly in several different aspects when it comes to the comic book.
Yeah, from like everything you've been telling me about the comics is we're not even in the comics anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and
like
Dennis was not a part of the comic book. The saga with Tulip and Jenny is not there. Her star has a much different angle to what he's doing, and his overall goal is different. And
like how they initially showed her star, seems like a completely different character.
Yeah, and then Angelville is not something that they go to. It's something that has been secretly searching for Jesse for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And
how they're brought there is because he finally gets caught by TC and Jody. TC and Jody are big time characters in the comic book.
Yeah.
And so that, for them to have this angle that they're going to them, like that's okay, is a big faux pas compared to the comic book. If anything, he's trying to make sure he never gets found or seen from TC and Jody ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And that, that right there was a big snafu for me. And the episode itself, it did have some cool dynamic stuff going on, and it did have some shock value. But sadly, I thought that some of it kind of delivered flatly for what it was kind of coming to pay out. I have to be honest with you. As much as I love season 1, as season 2 went along, it's just been slowly. It's like
it's been a chore.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like you didn't wipe well, and by the end of the season, your ass is itching so bad you just can't stand it anymore.
Ooh,
that's just kind of how I feel.
Yeah.
Is that you were fine in the beginning and things were rocking good, and then after sitting on you down after a while, you just can't stand it anymore. And I kind of feel like, and I'll be honest with you, we had several people who have emailed us and social media and everything else that have told us emphatically. I mean, what was it? I think Brian told us one time. He said, "I feel like the show is shit its pants."
Yeah,
and it just doesn't know what to do to clean it up. There's something to that effect, and I was like, I thought that's good. It's gone in a completely different direction. It's inconsistent with what it did first season, and I still love it for, the characters and what they developed for the characters, but I'm so concerned about where they're going with the story, considering they've diverged from where the original comic book gave you. Because, bottom line is the comic book is very direct about what is happening, what they're doing, and where they go in the direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something you can really fray from and keep the consistency of the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so what they're doing now and mixing up the order and adding the men in white or women in white and how that shifted and how Cassidy is quite a bit different character. And then the whole dentist thing, and then Tulip. I mean, hey, like I said, Tulip's white in the comic book, and Ruth Negga is amazing, and which I'm happy they have her.
I think they casted her perfectly. It was just like how they're using her is the main problem.
Like in season 1, she was a badass. It was like watching Mission Impossible with her, and then season 2, she's still a very capable. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's very capable, but
she's just been lost in the fray.
It's like we said before, like Cassidy, superhuman strength, a true vampire, can take a 600-pound cow and da-da-da-da. And this right here, Jesse can get the best of him in a hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
I mean, that just completely, the whole time I'm watching it, and I'm just shaking my head.
Not even that, just he's angry. And we all know when you're angry and everything,
right?
You're 3 times as strong as you normally are.
Those things are really strong. I mean, strong and make it hard for me to stay in love with the episode and the season because the writers have this. I really feel like AMC has forced their hand and added different writers to try to improve what they did in season 1 because maybe season 1 didn't meet expectation.
Well,
but to me, season 1
was so good.
Was good because it didn't have a comic book to compare it to, so much so. Well, the comic book didn't go into what season 1 did. The comic book had just a brief history of his past, and this was the creation of Jesse Custard and the town of Anvil and all that stuff. And so they had free reign and they had fun with it.
Do you think AMC was the wrong network to pick this show?
No, I don't think AMC was the wrong network, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes to make them go the way they did.
Yeah.
And the other part of this that really bothered me is that this episode is that. Where's the cowboy? We released him at the end of last episode.
Well, I mean,
and in this episode, nothing, not even a glimmer.
No, I mean, I just assumed he was back in hell because we saw the warden back down there and everything. So why wouldn't he be in hell, locked up in his cage?
Yeah, but to me, like, I want to have a word with Satan, and he wants to have a word with you.
Okay, so that's what.
Right,
yeah.
and so I was really surprised that wasn't brought back to the forefront there.
No, now I remember what you're talking about because we even talked about that last week. It was like we really want to have that conversation.
And so if you wanted to go through the episode, there were some really cool things they did, and which like I said, it really had some pick me up. Well,
I mean, I think let's just start with hell. Get Eugene.
Yeah,
out of the
let's
way
talk
and
about
everything.
Eugene. I mean, so they come out of this really cool manhole. Okay. And they do the smart thing, which I was proud of to see, which made me happy, is that they closed the manhole and screwed Cat back, right? I thought it was cool. But immediately after that happens, you see the manhole, handle start to twist back. So it gives you you're implied that somebody's on your tail immediately.
Which makes zero sense.
It really did. Because, I mean, they were completely clueless to what was going on.
And you would notice people behind you as you're constantly looking back and stuff.
Correct. Cool effect to see them running through what looks to be, the Amazon or southern Louisiana, and some, because that little, I want to say it was like it was a castle or a barge or an old army fort or something that had moss growing up on it and so on. Like I remember seeing that somewhere, like in True Detective season 1, where McConaughey and all them were fighting the bad guy at the end and
looking for the Yellow King and everything.
Right. Running through. I thought, but like there was like 4 shots them running, and then another shot of them running, and everything else. I mean, there was a lot of scenes in this episode where I felt like the only thing missing was Forrest Gump's hat and his shoes and metal breaking away from his knees and calf. You know what I mean? Like, run, Forrest. Run. Anyway. To get to where they're at the water, and Hitler's like, I'm going to do something good, and you just ask the man, and here's the whistle, and he'll get you across safely
and everything.
Okay, again, I'm like, okay, that's all cool, but first of all, how does he know that?
Made no sense to me how he knew that. How
did he know he would do a whistle?
Well, I think of whistles like old Greek mythology and everything, because this was the guy, and I'm sure this is the person who's supposed to bring you across. And so maybe that's how he knew and Eugene didn't.
Maybe so. I thought that was a little of a stretch, but I looked over it. I was like, okay, he used to be the guy who ran the place, so maybe he knows these things.
Well, like it was like old Greek mythology. This is the person you pay 2 copper pennies for and everything. He brings you across. And so like that was the only thing I was like, mate, why isn't he giving Eugene any copper or anything to pay the taxi man?
All he said was, you just tell him you don't belong here.
Exactly.
And I thought that was good. And he's like, I can't go. And he just leaves. And I thought that was kind of like, oh, okay. But yeah, I thought there'd be more to it.
Because I was trying to figure out, what is Hitler getting out of this? Why does he want Eugene out?
Yeah.
That's what...
It was kind of a mystery.
And it still makes no sense because Hitler's not just going to want to do a good thing, in hell or something.
I always thought there was a backstab.
There was something.
Something, a blind side, whatever you want to call it.
And this makes zero...
It really did. And so when Eugene comes up and talks to...
I think the name was Shelley. Is what they named it. It was a great name.
Yeah. And he tells them, and there's this long pause.
You think he's about to kill Eugene again somehow?
Yeah, and
I
was kind of like, this done well. And he puts the hand out and stuff, and he's like, oh. And all this was good. Mm-hmm. It really, really was, until it spoke.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I hated that it spoke, and it was talking to him like, hey, bro,
I kind of liked it. I was laughing. Like, it felt very Seth Rogen-y. It felt
did,
very Seth Rogen-y.
Don't,
No, I mean, I enjoyed it
There are
personally.
time and places. There really, really are. Their dialogue with the woman and it afterwards.
Well, that's where you got the darkness that you were
That's what I was expecting for. And that I was good with. And she's like, oh, you haven't heard? God's not around anymore. And so on. That statement right there bothered me too. What has God got to do with hell, her, and this guy, where she feels good enough to take a fishing spear,
harpoon,
and
dome him,
just straight dome him. Cool effect, like the smoke coming out like that, and so on. That's another thing that was like.
What'd you think about like Eugene and we'll call him Shelley? I completely forget his name or its name, and just be like, so what's that horn? Oh, it's. I really have no idea. Like, I've been looking at this thing for...
like I said, I think it was supposed to be an opportune time for some humor.
Yeah.
But those two is not where I expected the humor to be.
Mm-hmm.
I could see where Hitler and him have some humor, or there's some, like that. I don't know. It didn't work for me. I might be completely off. But he gets in the boat after Hitler saves him by hitting with whatever it looked to be the horn. And he goes, you deserve to come now. Like, I've never done anything good. He goes, until now, and
But it's like, Eugene, this is still freaking Hitler.
Yes.
He's killed tens of millions of people.
Yeah.
Tried to commit genocide.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're thinking just saving your life is enough to redeem Hitler?
So it does this little cutaway, and when you do get to see him come back, we get our Breaking Bad bus pull up, which I think is a great, hilarious.
Yeah, the fact that we're still using it. And I like how they changed the background a little bit. But I mean, it's still just like...
And of course, they had the awkward scene of one's wearing, a Peace t-shirt, and the other one's wearing like this old
Hitler's
80s,
wearing like an 80s, like multicolored,
this
terrible
is like
jumpsuit.
Really bad starter coat and jacket set up,
Loved it.
I was laughing. So what bothered me here about this is that he gets off, and we're having all these moments about how you can do good things now. Mm-hmm. You can be a better person. This is a fresh start. And when he gets off this van,
he immediately just takes off
and bolts.
Yeah.
This pissed me off, man. Like, I was just like...
I thought we were getting a new character or something. Like, how great would it have been to see Hitler?
This was an opportunity to have Hitler as being part of the show, which I've really come to enjoy.
And to kind of like try to be a good guy and everyone be like, you look like Adolf Hitler. No, 9-9. Like, like 9, him just be like, no, I'm a good guy. And
right. Well, imagine if they'd give him a haircut and get rid of his stash.
Yeah.
I mean, but you being the viewer, who he is, but nobody else does, and he becomes another character that's kind of integral to the show. I love it. Him running off, it made me like, then why in the hell did we go through the entire hell thing with Hitler being a guy that helps you out?
And here's the other thing. It's like, what, 70 years? Think how much the world's changed. Dude just got hit by a freaking car. Yeah. He has no idea what that is. And he's not going to survive in this world.
This was a real blow to where this was going. Almost like, and then Eugene doesn't chase after him, and all he says is shit, and then goes the other direction. Another thing, I'm like, okay, did you not want to
team up with Hitler?
Yeah, so this really, really stunned me that's how they decided to close out the hell thing.
Yeah.
After all that, Hitler just runs off
and pushes a guy on crutches. Like,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah,
it's like, do we really already have to make Hitler the worst person again?
Yeah, so that stuff right there, that bothers me. That they decided to go that route with it.
Yeah, like we get this redemption and we immediately just throw it away. Yeah.
So whatever.
We're done with hell.
Yeah. Yeah, done with hell.
Well, right before, I did love when he's talking to Shell and he's like, man, they really messed you up down there. No, this was pre-existing.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
But okay.
So it does have a little humor.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Now, when we get to the Jesse Tulip and Cassidy, we do get a little younger version of Jesse. And
this was our opening scene.
Right. And this is where he's sitting in this rather nice chair at the entrance of Angelville. And he's collecting basically like a toll to come into this place to whatever services that are being rendered. And he's making his money and he's, all that stuff. And then a car comes in, the nice Ford Mercury, Mercury, whatever you want to call it, back in the day. And he's like, I want blood, I want this, that. And he goes, whatever, cop. And he gets pissed and leaves. And he gives him the fingers. And this is all cool. Really, really cool to see the Spanish Oaks.
Yeah.
This long, straight driveway. I would love to know what this location is.
I mean, man, just trying to think. Like, it's just got to be like Kentucky or Louisiana or something.
No, this is straight Louisiana, southern Alabama. These are still, the places that have these kind of oak trees and this kind of look. I mean, if you remember Forrest Gump, I know we make references, Forrest Gump's driveway looks very similar to this, just better manicured.
Yeah.
This was something very similar, and this was something very popular. Living in Louisiana for a while that I did, the straight line driveways with large oaks, was something of a status symbol to a plantation.
Okay.
Especially for, sharecropping plantations in different places of the South. And I'm sure there's some in Mississippi, but I've seen physical ones that look very similar to this in southern Alabama, mid-Alabama, of course, all over Louisiana.
Yeah.
And Spanish oaks are really, really popular in Louisiana.
Beautiful trees.
And they're gorgeous, the moss-growing oaks. And they're really, really pretty. And when people usually plant azaleas around the base of them because they can handle shade, and then when it's azalea, when it's season of the bloom, it's just an amazing experience just to drive down your driveway.
Okay.
And so really, really cool effect. I love that they have this and it's dirt road, and they really give you that feel that they're in Louisiana, which comic book is the setting for it.
I mean, I thought the set was beautiful. A lot of it was great, but this entire 7-minute opening scene was just so dull.
Yeah. And then of course you get the non-visual of the face when it comes to the old Dodge coming up with TC and Jody.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm assuming these are the two characters you were alluding to.
These are the two guys that are these are Grandma's henchmen.
Yeah.
And I'm not giving anything away. When you saw what happens, they put Jesse in the box in the swamp and stuff. And these are big time characters. And when we saw the previous episode, you got to see a little bit of their face, and then wearing camo hats like that. These two guys also have very distinct looks about them.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised at all that we have a kind of a unique, different casting when it comes to next season, when it comes to these two characters.
Okay. You think maybe they just couldn't find them yet, and that's why?
Very possible. I mean, like I said, very unique looking characters in the comic book. Very, you're dealing with Jody and TC.
Okay.
When you're in the comic book, and they're very powerful characters. No, they don't goof off and play. Anyway, so seeing them and for delivering lunch and the money thing, I get all that. But the chicken thing.
Yeah, I was about to ask you because was there any significance to this chicken, or
no?
Was it just to show that we can bring somebody back to life later on in the episode?
No, there's nothing significant about the chicken. That right there. I
have no interest in wasting time.
It was truly just to have another run Forrest run moment of him going down there to get the chicken to the voodoo lady who knows how to bring things back to life,
which was foreshadowing for later in the episode.
Correct. Which they showed you the chicken run across the road. I mean,
yeah,
really, the chicken ran across the road as the car went by. I mean,
I
can think of 37 different puns, that go with that. So. Little stuff like that. All this, the opening scene was just to give you a closing for the end.
It just went on too long.
It did a little bit. It really, really did. You know, but when that kind of closed out, we got back into the episode for what it was, and that's Her Star doing his manipulation for Jesse to become the Messiah.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, every time he said we're going live with Jimmy Kimmel, I mean, I was laughing out loud.
Yeah.
I was laughing out loud. I mean, I was like, way to throw the modern into it and really put it there.
And for whatever reason, like I think Jimmy Kimmel hit home better than like a Jimmy Fallon or Seth Meyers or any of the other.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just the way he says it with his somewhat British accent. It is the way it goes.
And then be like, "Oh man, we got Jimmy Kimmel. This is great."
Yeah.
And then like as we're like driving away, at one point he's like, "They wanted to put you behind Kylie Jenner," and I was like, "Yes, yes, that away, Seth. That away to actually keep it." Like these are the little tidbits.
Those little nuggets to keep you going. But the whole, you're gonna wear a Finnish, cloak, and I'm like, this is the worst looking thing I've ever seen.
Oh
in my life.
I was like, thank God, Jesse's
You're
like, no,
wearing,
I'm not wearing this.
A southwestern Texas style preacher's outfit with silver tip,
gold brim and all that stuff. I was like, my goodness.
Now I do love that people like question, you notice them little silver tips he's got on the collar and I'm just like, these little details were good. But he comes in there and he's like, just crowded in there. It's a lot of folks, and I'm like, and then when he walks into a classroom,
a Catholic classroom of like third graders, and I'm like,
I was like,
well done. And he's filming it on his phone.
Yeah, it's not even like professional recording like that. It's a phone on a tripod that's 47 times larger than the phone recording device, and so on, which is good. So you can tell he's got the cards, and of course the cards are ridiculous. It's like homosexuality and trans. He's like, I'm not even gonna read this, and I was surprised to hear the gunfire. And the lady walks in. It's the Armenians,
and then like it's the old janitor, and I'm like, really? This is what we're trying to pass off as?
Well, not only that, where were they that have Armenians that are going to come and attack?
Yeah, where's there a Catholic school where Armenians?
I'm sorry. This was like, what the shit?
And maybe this is my ignorance or something. I didn't think this person looked Armenian. I have no idea what an Armenian looks like.
The closest thing you can say to an Armenian is somebody very distinctly close to Eastern European. Or South. Like when you see, I don't know where an Armenian is from or if there's a distinctive look, but I know it's European. And when I've watched other movies and shows that have like Armenian bad guys, I've seen almost no difference in them and like a Russian mafia guy.
Terrible description for like what.
Right, I'm
like
just saying.
Ended up being here.
You almost see no difference. Trust me, they're white.
Yeah.
Okay. Other than that, you're really not going to see much else. Most of the time, there's something of European descent. Anyway, so the guys coming in, two of them don't look anything European.
No. And
so I was like, And then,
even the head guy didn't even really look.
Yeah, I mean, he was close. I could
He's
give
pretty
him
tan. But as soon as I saw this at the janitor, I was like, "Oh, great! Now we're all set up." Like this is Her Star put this together immediately, and like as soon as we saw the janitor the first time, I was like, "This guy's not very happy to be calling Jesse Messiah."
No, all right. The big clue of this scene here is that he uses the word and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the first thing that went in my mind is, "Oh, they don't speak English," but that wasn't the case at all.
No,
they were just like, "What'd you say?"
And but he used the word, but he didn't like fully commit to it, and so like you could hear it was distorted.
So what are they trying to tell us here?
I don't know. And then he asked him like, "Hey, why didn't you use the word?" He's like, "I didn't need to." It's like, "No, Jesse, you used it." And so maybe he needs Tulip and Cassidy for it to work full power.
I hope not. That doesn't jive well with what its intention.
Nothing about the power has jived well this season. And
it really hasn't.
Now
it's inconsistent. I don't get that at all. I mean, every episode he's been able to he's been able to do his bidding until now.
Well, it's not even really every episode. Like 3 or 4 episodes back is like ever since we saw Her Star, and he was in the office, and he tried to tell the one guy the power didn't work on him. And we didn't know why.
That's true.
And so, like, it's the past 3 or 4 episodes, the power
it's worked on Her Star every time.
Has it?
I think so.
Like, I mean, we know it, like, when he was shoving the film up his ass and stuff, like, yeah, okay, it worked then. But, like, I don't know. Like in the Saint, it didn't work on him because of some weird speaker technology. Even though he could hear them, it was distorted or something. Like
I don't know.
we need some definite descriptor of why
Yeah.
why Genesis isn't working.
What do you think of the fight scene?
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Like, I mean, the fight scenes have been progressively getting a lot better all season, and like I loved how he was using. Like, he knew, like, the gun was a blank, so, like, he started using the clip as a weapon. Like, he's hitting you in the knees with it and stuff.
I love how he hits the top of the gun as he hits the eject button, and the clip comes out as a weapon. It was pretty
like,
classic.
I mean, this was a really fun fight scene. It was probably, like, I hate to say, like, it got better, but no, like, all the fight scenes progressively got better.
They do a good job. Whoever your stunt coordinator and choreograph person is doing great.
Yeah.
They're having fun with it. I do like that.
Great job by Dave Porter with, like, all the sound effects and stuff he's using, like you said.
Even though if you took a gun butt to the head at full swing, you're not getting back up.
No.
You know, so these guys are taking 3 and 4 shots or taking one hit and flying backwards 5 feet into a table or bar. Ruler cool is the only thing going on here. You know, it's just the
what do you think about him cold-heartedly just pulling the trigger? Like, not even hesitating or anything. And like, I mean, that's caught on camera. It's like the person you're trying to pass as the Messiah tried to murder
just
people.
Grease paper.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Good thing this is blank. Otherwise, there'd be holes in all of y'all.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
yeah,
people
I thought that was very
that.
inconsistent. I really did. For all you know, that he, you know, edited or doctored it because of what he videoed, so that has that potential. I thought about that as well. No, one of my favorite parts is he's out in the hallway. He goes, you set all that up, da 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 da, and he goes, and he's talking about we're trending now, and minus the kid defecating on my shoe.
It went according to plan.
It went according to plan. I was like, I mean, these little nuggets and one-liners are pretty good.
But, I mean, it's also a big thing that her star knows what trending is. Like, how on top of technology and the way news moves, that's, like, I know we haven't really talked about how this organization has stayed on top, but technology, it seems like, is their best way. Is they understand how to shift the narrative, and they're doing such a really good job of that.
Right.
And just to say, Jimmy Kimmel, trending, Kylie Jenner, to know all of these things, that it's a very subtle way of why we understand how powerful this group is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, it jumps over to Cassidy, and he's like doing laundry, and they're getting ready to pack and stuff. And we have this scene where he turns the computer and looks at it. And it's Les Infante something, sir. Anyway, I looked it up, and it's dual purpose.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty cool. Is that the original was during Queen Janea or something. Anyway, it was a secret society of...
dive into your carnal pleasure, or
no, it was like not politically correctness, but like they were a group to make sure things were staying the way they are. They were all about bloodlines. So
they're the Knights of Decency.
Yeah, no, it's like at those times a plague or a bad thing or something like that could happen.
Okay.
And you could wipe out generations and bloodlines and different things like that. And so these were people who lived secretly to carry on the pureness of a bloodline. Like being a king, you had to be a true heir to a king with royal lineage and bloodline. Just like when you watch Game of Thrones, this, that, or so on, right?
Knight's Tale is a good example of it.
Right. And so in those times, this was a secret society that was very low-key, not well known, and wasn't considered something that was of longevity, that their sole purpose was about making sure that the pure bloodlines of certain families stayed intact over time.
Okay.
Well, now this show has turned it into, when you say the bloodlines, it was more like, this is your bloodlust club for vampires. So like if you're a dude and you go to a strip club to get pleasure, this club, this Infante, whatever you want to call it, is like where vampires would go to satisfy your fantasies of
biting people
or eating a certain thing or certain blood, that kind of thing like that. And so what you're seeing here is this is Cassidy realizing that Dennis is discovering things
that Cassidy misses.
Well, not necessarily even misses, but Dennis is acting like an adolescent that knows better, is going to do what the hell he wants, and and this is dangerous to all.
Yeah, vampires.
And well, not only that, I think Cassidy has a conscience of you don't act on these things with humans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so he doesn't want this guy, his son, to become what some of the vampires do when they feed on humans and do the wrong, be wrong. It's just like watching Blade. I don't eat the humans or our food. But the bad guys do. Same concept.
Okay. Do you wish we would have seen what was on the screen?
I think it did it. I think it did it justice by the
sound.
The sound, because it sounded pretty horrific.
It sounded bad.
To me, that was more captivating than. I don't think AMC could show you what was probably going on that screen. Let's be honest with ourselves.
But I'm glad we did get, because like I said a few episodes ago, I thought I just was watching porn,
right?
But you didn't think so, and then you were definitely right, and it ended up being much, much worse.
Correct. And I think that's kind of the reason that Cassidy's smoking crack is because he's.
Are you smoking crack?
Yeah.
No. Yes, it's crack.
I think he's struggling with the reality of what the decision he has done has created. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's just like the whole, the dog hiding it and this, that, and so on. He's realizing that he did something for the right reasons, but even though it was wrong.
Yeah. And sometimes good intentions lead to the worst things.
Right. Well, the road to hell is paved in good intentions, as they say. And so there's that. And of course, there's this little jump scene of Tulip in the grocery store or convenience store buying 18 bottles of SPF 100. And
which people, by the way, anything over 35 is a ripoff.
There's no such thing.
Yeah,
it's just a number on a label.
Go
and if
get
you read the label closer.
Go get the medical kind that's iron or zinc thrown in there. That's what really matters.
Right.
But never buy over 35. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, a lot of people they upcharge
from your local pharmacist. Cash, love it. Thank
you.
Exactly. The good neighbor. So in the whole scene, and I didn't really get what the scene value was here.
No,
you see the woman who's stealing, and then you see her take the guy's tie and hit his head a couple times, and try to offer her money, and she's like, "Oh, I guess I'm the bad guy."
Yeah,
I didn't really get the symbolism here.
I'm assuming racism, because he's like, "Why do you need sunscreen?" Yeah. And it's just like, "Why is this needed?" I don't get it.
To me, I just didn't understand.
Just let her buy it.
Missed it, whatever it was. If they were symbolizing something, or
I was
supposed
assuming
to
it was
be a
racism.
character flaw, I didn't get it.
To me, it was that poorly done. Why do we have this?
Right. And so when she comes back, it's the whole smoking crack, and
I loved how he called it medicinal. It is it's for medicinal reasons though. But then we get this weird.
I must tell you, she stunned me when she was like, we're gonna have sex again.
Yeah, I thought it was like she was teasing him and the first kiss, and she's like, that's all. I was like, oh, gross, Cassidy. You think I really want it, but no. He has this vision, and
to me, actually, I was like, this is legit. I can't believe they're going to do it. They're actually showing these two going a different direction than Jesse, and how they're going to do this. Because in the comic book, the band does not stay together.
Man,
they come back together for different things, different times. It's not the trio all the time.
God, I really need the trio. Unless I get a breakaway and Cassidy, his vampire life, I really don't have any interest in the
comic book, it does. It has the situations, multiple, where Cassidy goes his way, they go their way, different things of that nature, and then their stories reconverge, and it works out great. How they set it all up and do different things.
But as we've seen on many TV shows, that's really difficult to do.
Well, it's just like the Walking Dead theory. You don't have to pay as many actors if you don't put them all on screen at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. You know what I mean? Which is an AMC trope.
Yes. Because there's just, as we've seen, Jesse's very hard to do by himself. Man, he just does not.
Yes, he is. So when they're getting to this whole kissing, loving, this, that, or so on, and
touching,
then when he bites her, I was in absolute shock. I was like, this is where you call a major shift in storyline.
And I thought it happened.
I really did. And then he started like gnawing, and she was like that, and I was like, "What the?"
And rips a chunk out of her neck.
No, this is what pissed me off. He pulls this chunk out of her throat, and I'm talking about this is the size of a small burger hanging out of his mouth.
Oh my god!
And then it pans to look at her neck, and it's a little bitty hole.
Yeah.
I was like, "What the shit, man?" I mean, you've got a Big Mac hanging out of your lips, and you've got this little bitty
Crystal
nugget missing out of her throat. I was like,
no.
What special effects guy goes, "That looks right"?
No, I mean, there's not one out there like
no. I was like, man.
And I mean, this chunk of meat.
Go hire Tolan FX. Go hire my man Ted Williams. Go hire some people I know who work in business. They wouldn't make this amateur mistake.
No.
It was just, and not only that, if you took that big a chunk out of her throat, she would be spraying blood like you have never seen everywhere. Instead of this little,
this would have looked like it. Like we just got done finishing, and blood just comes squirting out of the sink. Room decorated red.
By the way, if you have not seen it, you definitely need to see it. We just did a pod on it, and it was money in the bank. We absolutely love the movie, and we had a really cool little scene throughout the entire pod where Jake gives us comparisons from the book, and it helps explains a lot in the movie.
It does explain a lot throughout the movie.
And actually makes the movie even better. I wish there some of the things were put in there, but it is what it is. But going back to the movie and back to the show Preacher, I thought the whole neck thing and the blood was a misfire. And then it leads into the whole deal of Tulip finding the camera, and they have this cool little funny line together where they're like, oh my God, I was masturbating in this living room, and so was I, and I thought that was good.
Are you surprised it took them this long to find the camera and everything?
Kinda, sorta.
And then there was still another one that looked like in the same exact place where it dropped.
Well, they were in a different room.
Okay.
The one that dropped was in the kitchen. The other one was in the living room, and I think they realized the cameras were in all these rooms and everything. So that's what they're like. Oh, they've been manipulating it, and there's a star and blah blah blah. But then it goes into the scene where Dennis looks at these panties that are on the bed, and I'm not real sure that whole situation,
the significance of them, and
right?
everything.
I mean, he's struggling. I get it, and I think, like you said, Dennis has got
and
problems.
didn't these look like to be too big for Tulip?
I wouldn't say that.
Okay,
but. Can you be a good papa and, all that kind of stuff. And then he starts speaking English to him. Mm-hmm. And when this happened, I'm thinking, are we having another vision? And then right after that, he just goes ahead and shoves him right out the window.
Yeah. And closes the window.
And closes the drapes like that.
And we've seen how strong a vampire is, right?
Correct.
And you tell me he can't break this window?
Inconsistent, and then he goes out there. Now, cool special effects with Dennis like
burning,
starting to roast and burn.
I mean, his skin is just getting chunked off and everything. Like this reminded me of Blade.
It does,
and I mean, it was a more gruesome thing than Blade, which I didn't think I would ever say when it comes to a vampire being melted.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing about this scene: completely unexpected. And this is supposed to have this big shock and awe moment, okay? Which it did to a point, but it was, dare I say, too early?
No, because getting rid of Dennis was the top priority.
Well, that's the whole deal. It's like, I just don't think they gave us enough ammunition for him to pull the trigger yet.
I mean, I think it was just he saw what Dennis was becoming, and it was either Dennis was going to corrupt him to be like that, Tulip was in real danger, or Dennis was going to get him in trouble with who turned him.
I got you. I do feel like they needed a little bit more of loading the guns before we pulled the trigger on this.
No, it was just something that was a long time coming, and I'm glad it's over.
I know you're a happy camper.
Yeah.
I get that. Well, anyway, they do it. Are you disappointed that they didn't get to see Dennis be killed on screen?
No. I mean, I saw enough of him melting and burning and screaming.
Well,
and then we got the screaming from Cassidy's side to where he's holding down the window and everything. And I thought that was a bigger payoff than actually seeing Dennis die.
Okay. Well, in the comic books, of course, it's a big deal, to watch one and, they light on fire and everything like that. And then they kind of have this explosion at the end. I was kind of a little bit of part of me is hoping I was going to get to see, the
You sick man.
Yeah, whatever.
But no, like, I mean, I enjoyed Cassidy's side of it since that's who we're sticking with.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's kind of where it was at and stuff.
I mean, he runs back downstairs, and he hasn't put on any sunscreen. Like, I mean, I know it's like a small detail, but like, we just saw
they play fast.
Yeah,
and loose
like we
with
just
the whole
saw Dennis
sunlight
die
thing.
and stuff, and now we're just ignoring the fact that Cassie's going out into the sun. Like, come on. Like, we made the big purchase of 15 bottles of the sunscreen.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I mean, I like that he immediately gets back into the back seat, and I thought it was vampire related.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what you know. And of course, Tulip changes her mind to go check on something, and he lets the dog go. And I get the significance there, that you've made a decision, you have to live with the decision, and you have to let go. And that dog will always be a symbol of who his son was, and and be very difficult. And so I thought all that was done real well after fact. The Tulip part,
this makes no sense.
it really doesn't. It's like, okay, how can we get him to Angelville without having to follow the comic book? Okay, let's just have let's have Tulip go in there and get shot off camera.
Yep.
Which pissed me off. Not to say I enjoy watching women get shot, but it's just from the show, who's never strayed away from any type of violence, especially gun violence. That is complete. I mean, we've seen Tulip get shot in the chest how many times on this season?
Like, at least
even with
15.
blood when she's dreaming, and then we do an off-camera scene.
I mean, we know she's a complete badass. We saw her fight Victor's henchman, who is 3 times her size, and just so much. And you're telling me she's going to bring a knife to a gunfight?
It's Tulip. A screwdriver.
Yeah, not even a knife.
Yeah, I mean, just like,
oh my God, this is such a
you're going to
miss.
throw a screwdriver from 27 feet across from the room at somebody, which has their hands behind their back. You have to believe that you're outgunned.
Yeah.
So I thought that was flimsy.
And you've got a vampire in the car.
Exactly.
And
then of course this leads to Jesse, and he's concerned about his friends, and another one-liner by her star of, the Messiah, has to realize he can't eat his hemorrhoids, and I was laughing pretty good, but it leads to him running over there, and then you see her star go, "Hurry back for your soul."
Yeah. And just like, what? No.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of okay. And when he gets there, we find Tulip on the kitchen floor.
But did you notice the book that Tulip quickly scanned through as she's waiting for it to come through was How to Extract a Soul? Like, that's what the book was. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
I didn't really catch it so much. I just saw that she lifted it up and it had the putty stuck to it.
Yeah, it was like the How to Extract a Soul, I'm pretty sure.
Huh.
And so like it paid homage to, it's like, hey, we're extracting the rest of your soul from the saint, which is a big deal.
Right.
Because you couldn't necessarily send the Messiah's soul down to hell.
I agree. And what the other part is, too, is that if
her star now has leverage on Jesse.
He does have leverage.
Although 1% of his soul is pretty big.
Obviously. All right, so he says he finds her in the hallway, brings her into the kitchen, and she's bleeding, and she's got an abdomen shot, just south of her heart, and she's struggling, and Jesse comes in to try to kind of fix her up, and there's blood everywhere, and it's gruesome, and then this leads to the only option we got. There's no AB negative or A whatever blood.
So how do you not have any O positive or O negative?
Yeah, I was like, where's the O negative? O negative, all you got to have for everything, And so that wasn't in there. And so basically it comes down to where Cassie makes the decision that this is the only way she'll live, and you get to see his fangs for the first time. Mm-hmm. And which I'm happy they didn't do the whole bite and turn and that stuff, and they argue. But then when they're fighting, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he can tear you in half. He can tear your arms off and beat you to death with them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go out that way.
And he doesn't use Genesis to stop him.
No.
Genesis didn't work on Tulip, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
it's just some inconsistency, which they had to do some explaining for. And basically, they just let her die.
Yeah, like Jesse being like, it's okay, just let her die and stuff. I'm like, no.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it's like, I know exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go visit this person, but why are you risking letting her die? Like, this makes no sense. And the only thing I could think of was, it's something we talked about off pod where you talked about the comic books, and this is something that happens to her as a child.
Yeah, I mean,
and so
in the comic books, she dies from a gunshot wound.
A little bit more graphic.
And quite a bit differently. And a different conclusion happens. And
it kind of looks like we're almost going down that conclusion because...
yeah, this is a major remix of how you go about it. I mean...
like God is kind of watching it happen and stuff?
No, this is completely different.
I mean, I don't even know what I think is going to happen because there's so many different things because as you said, we end up going to Angelville and Jesse's like, oh man, you think you hate me now? It's about to get a lot worse.
Right. Which is just more nuggets to his past and what that's supposed to mean and everything. And so, like I said, this is where they have really diverged from comics and what they're trying to do. And
what do you think about the kind of zoom out to where it's going through the dog's eye, but there's no one in the dog's suit?
Yeah,
it was a cool shot and stuff.
It was a cool visual.
What's it trying to symbolize?
I don't think of anything. It's just supposed to show you that their prediction of who God was in his little suit was accurate.
Yeah,
and that maybe he wears that suit because, like you said, he's a bright emitting, being of God. I think it was just to confirm what the show was saying, what they thought was.
Is we have already met God.
Exactly. And so I think that was its only insignificance, and that they knew what they were doing. They were close, whatever. And that's how the show is supposed to move on, that there is still something to be searching for.
Okay.
And so that's just kind of where it hangs up for, next season if it gets renewed. Like I said earlier, I'm not real excited about how the season kind of unfolded.
No, it
kind of felt like it was 3 episodes too long, and they kind of went into an alternate direction that was kind of not Preacher-esque. Because realistically, all last season was so unique. Your first 5 minutes of every episode was always the cool hook for the entire episode. The angels and the motel scenes and all these things were so memorable.
The opening scenes, but man, they just did not hit like
they didn't deliver like that. And then the first couple episodes this season were, the gun convention at the hotels were hilarious.
They were great.
The state troopers on the street were great. And
but as we worried, we said, hey, if we stay in one spot, we're worried about.
That's exactly what we were worried about. We stayed in New Orleans and it went flat. And then, of course, there is no hell scheme or scene or anything like that in the comic books about Eugene or Arseface down there, and there's definitely no Hitler. So all this is completely new and ad lib, and like Eugene is not a big character in the comic books. I mean, he is for a little bit, but he's intermittent and not something at this stage. And so that right there is another big, they've changed that up. So I mean, it's very curious to see how they're going to continue this, and I just dare I say I'm concerned about the future.
I'm going to have to agree with you, and I mean I think our fans will know that we're a little bit concerned with it if they've listened to our last 2 or 3 pods. And I mean we'd love to know.
5 or 6 have been kind of sketchy.
Yeah, and I mean we'd love to know what y'all think about the show going forward and everything. And do you think that if it is renewed, it needs a couple less episodes or something?
Does it need a kick in the pants like we think it does? Do you consider yourself still an avid fan and want to continue to watch it and think it's just done a great job and moving forward? Do you think the show is suffering? I mean, we would love to hear what you think, because there are parts of me that I do absolutely love it. I love the humor and I love some of the action stuff and the things like that, but a lot of the inconsistency in the story arc directions kind of fell real flat. So I'd love to compare thoughts. I think Cash and I agree. And so you can hit us up at BleedTV Podcast on gmail.com and
Facebook,
YouTube and all these places. And tell us how you felt about the whole season. Yeah, tell us that, where it was great, where it could have been better, or was it complete dog shit, as Jake likes to say all the time. So we would love to hear about it. Really, really would. And again, we just put out a pod for it. I think you would really enjoy it if you haven't seen it and you hadn't checked on it. A lot of good information we talk about on that. And I think the next thing we're going to be rocking into for the future is that we're looking at doing a really cool preview cast for The Walking Dead that comes out October 22nd, I believe. And we might put something out the week before and do something new we've never done in Bleed TV, and that is to possibly give you a preview based on what the comic book is going to tell you is supposed to happen. The one thing good about that is The Walking Dead really doesn't per se follow the comic book when it comes to major character deaths or
they
like
give
to
that
say
death to somebody else. So I mean,
right, Kirkman remixes, how they do different things, and so I think it could be really cool to see where the story got its arc from before they create the show and go their direction. And we talked about a few things that are seen in the preview, as well as we talk, review how Talking Dead did and had a little extra snippet. So tune in for that if you're a Walking Dead fan and listen to us, and I think you'll enjoy that. But other than that, guys, this is a wrap for season 2 of Preacher.
Yep.
And we will see how things go and as season 3 comes around and where we go from there. But other than that, this is Bleed TV, and I'm Zach.
And I'm Cash.
And we'll see y'all next time it comes out. So.